Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folari. Now, let's look at that, bit of information that the Vice President let slip yesterday. Well, maybe let slip is not the way to put it. He did announce that the Federal Executive Council has approved the concessioning of the Lagos and Abuja airports. Now, that's very, very important, we thought, because first of all, Nigeria has about 30 or so airports. 5 of them are state-owned. There's even one that's, not 5 of them are state-owned. I wanted to say 5 of them are international airports, and we'll come and look at what that means. We even have one, Akwa Ibom, that is state-owned. So there's all of that by way of the overview to one side. Then you might have heard the report at the end of last month, very, very beginning of this month, that reportedly the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration had not passed, I'm looking for a way to dodge using the word failed, had not passed the recent aviation audit in terms of security and all of that kind of thing, and had given Nigeria 65 days to sort of close the gaps and just remove all the deficiencies. If we don't get Category 1 certification, recertification, if we don't pass that again, then the implications, we are told, is that one, Nigerian registered aircraft will not be able to fly into the US. That's on the one hand, and then it will generally lower us on the whole global aviation sector pecking order. And so to now hear that actually approval has been given by the Federal Executive Council for the concessioning of two of the 30-odd airports. My aim is to, this morning, perhaps understand it a lot better than when I started out now. And to that extent, we have experts in the house to help us understand it better. Let me welcome, first of all, Group Captain Retired John Ojikutu, General Secretary, Aviation Roundtable, and MD of Centurion Aviation Security and Safety Consults. Thank you very much, Group C.
It's my pleasure to be here.
Thank you very much for coming on. And my friend, Mr. Chris Ligwe, who is an aviation expert, a consultant, and also CEO of Belu Jane Consult. Thank you very much, Chris, for coming.
Yeah, it's nice being with you.
Indeed, my
being
pleasure.
with TVC.
Indeed. Thank you very much. Group Captain, first of all, let's just start, just take one step back. The news that the U.S. Aviation admin body has failed us in this Category 1 certification, that is recertification. We need to, at the audit, pass. But they say they failed us in terms of security and safety. Now, I guess we don't need to know very much about it to know that that's the most important part of any airport, security and safety. They've given us 65 days to clean up our act or risk not getting recertified. How important is this?
Well, how important is exactly what you just said. This is not the first time we found ourselves in that situation. I think about 1992 or 93, precisely, we had a similar problem. And what the Americans did was to stop us from flying directly from Lagos to New York. And what they asked us to do is that if you have to fly to New York, you have to make a stopover in Dakar, drop all your passengers, then they will do a kind of rescreening for everybody, including their luggage, before they continue proceeding. And that is exactly what is going to happen now. Even the Delta Air that is flying directly now may not likely fly directly to Lagos again, and probably stop in Dakar, make arrangement with a kind of local aircraft that will carry Nigerian passenger to Dakar. That was the situation in 1980, and I just pray we don't have that type of situation.
But the 65 days that they say we have to fix it.
We don't really know what are those items that are within, how many are they, and what are those items.
Okay, but they just say generally that security and safety.
Yeah, but there will be certain items that needs to be taken care of.
Okay.
Yeah, there will be certain items within those period that we need to quickly do. 65 days is quite a short time. It's only when it starts going to 90 days to 120 days that we now know we have a very big problem. Okay. So let's just hope that within this short time, the NC, because it's NC that is being audited.
Okay. Well,
it is the NCAA. I keep telling people,
not the federal aviation.
It is the it is NCAA that is being audited, not the operators.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the regulator that is being audited. There will have been certain gap of oversight that they have not been doing properly. And if they have not been doing that oversight properly, and it comes to their knowledge, either in the books they are presented to them, then they'll say, go and fix this book within 65 days.
Okay, we're going to come back to that issue, no doubt, Captain. Mr. Ligbe, it's worrying because, look, people think of an airport, especially non-professionals, as a fun place. You know, it's like a shopping mall. You know, you got duty-free shops, you got elaborate buildings and all of that. And so often that masks the fact that the most important part of an airport is not all of those areas, important as they will be, but it's about the safety and security of picking up, you know, a plane taking off and a plane landing. Now, the concessioning that you have heard of, Chris, that we are going to be doing, I don't know if you have an idea of what this concessioning should involve. Really, that's it. What should it involve?
Thank you, Yori. And first and foremost, let me say this. I congratulate this government, along the minister, all of them who are involved, for this decision. Okay. This probably, for me, is the third decision that I will personally congratulate this government about in the aviation sector. First, I mean, one of them is the concessioning, the handing over of the airport road, which is the airport road to Lagos State government. We have talked about it over the years. They fought over it in the past, but now they have done it. I am sure, with one sees what Ambode and his government at the administration are doing, they will do this country a good job. And we, for the first time, be proud of a good access road. The next one, well, that concerns me, when this government took decision to pay the benefits of retired Nigeria Airways staff, which are probably, it hasn't been paid, but are processing. Many of them have died. Many of us colleagues have died. So that's the first decision. Second decision, this airport concessioning, nothing can be better than that.
Wow.
Yes.
So
it's the best decision.
As an expert,
yes,
you see the sense in the way we're going.
Yeah. Nothing can be better than that, because I have said it, anybody who is opposed to concessioning is an enemy of this country, to airport concessioning. I understand the unions in their fight against it. The unions, one, are fighting it. May be first, the fear of loss of job, which shouldn't be usual, so you don't blame them, they're in their field. But secondly, the fear of the unknown and the experience of what has happened in the past. The concessions that have been done in the aviation sector, all of them were done under the carpet. People that are supposed to be involved were not involved. Okay. And then it was not transparent. And
the Vice President mentioned what you are speaking about, that yes, it has been determined that this will be done with transparency.
Yeah, you see, transparency. I believe the Vice President, but let me add absolute transparency. That's the truth. That's what happens worldwide. You will know first, the people, it's not a matter to be left completely with the aviation ministry. This is much more than that, because this is business. Aviation ministry, you have civil servants who are excellent bureaucrats, but know next to nothing, not much about the aviation sector. So it should be taken to the domain where it's people who are in the industry, who you won't find in the ministry, people who are in business sector. You have BPE, National Economic Summit Group, you have Infrastructure Concession Committee, but critically, aviation, core aviation people, they should be put together. I think that along with the minister, the Vice President should take over the constitution of the committee that will midwife this concessioning thing. If it has to be transparent, if it has to be done properly, so that we don't get into the problems we got to before. And right from day one, the legal department of this country, yes, this Ministry of Justice, somebody will be involved, because all other past concessions, they were done on a table. Even the person coming to have the concession drafted the agreement that was signed, and so it was killed against the government at all the arguments in the aviation industry, whether you are talking at Virgin Atlantic, whether you are talking at Courtney, which unfortunately should be one of our pride, one thing we should be proud of in this country, because it's a great effort.
Yeah, the Babalakin-led.
Yes, but the fact of the matter is the processes of obtaining that concession are still by far questionable. Forget what the courts have decided.
Look, Captain, this is what Chris touched on there. It's one of the areas that most Nigerians, well-meaning Nigerians, have begun to say, show some skepticism for. As one listens to informed commentary and one hears that the most important thing in an airport, in addition to all those very visible ones, is safety and security. Over the years we've been talking about this, experts have said that you don't have round pegs in round holes in that whole sector. Is this going to make that, say, really a double-barrel question, is this going to make all of that a bit better? And is this an admission that we as a people cannot really handle the area, this whole matter of taking all our airports, well, not all, they've just gone 2 now, taking them to international best practices level?
Let me first of all join Chris in congratulating this government. Because the issue of this concession is not now we started it. We started it even with the last administration, but it didn't come to fruition before they left. I'm 100% with government in the concession.
By the way, it hasn't been concessioned.
I'm 100%.
But the decision to do so has been taken.
Yeah. And I ask one question. What are we really concessioning out?
Okay, I'm interested too.
Yeah. For me, there are 2 sides in the airport. You know, when you started, you were talking of the safety and all this, and security. There are 2 sides to the airport. The aeronautical sides and the non-aeronautical side. Government needs to come out very clearly what they really want to concession. And all along, I've always been saying that concession all the terminal buildings out.
Okay, okay.
Because these are the non-aeronautical sides. They don't fall under any of the 17 or 18 annexes of IQ. The car park, concession all of them out. The terminal building, the cargo terminal building, even the apron where you put the aircraft, concession them out. But don't touch, for now, don't touch on the aeronautical side. We've just talked about FAA now. You understand? Right now we have 22 airports, government-owned, plus about 6 state-owned, that the federal government agencies are managing. Not one has been certified. Not one has been aeronautically certified.
So when we talk about a group 1, you know...
I'm coming.
Okay.
Because this is part of the problems that we are not really looking at concession. I agree with it. Babalake built MM2 from the scratch. So
that is by Courtney.
By Courtney, yeah. By Courtney built MM2 from the scratch, from the ground, from arches. It was an arches area. It was a terminal building that was got burnt, and he built it from the scratch to the level where it is. So hand over all these airports, including Port Harcourt. Port Harcourt is number 3 in terms of viability in this country. No matter the level where it is number 3 in terms of viability. Let them concession it along with what they want to do now.
Okay.
I do not want a situation where we are going to continue spending public money where private money can be spent and they will make profit out of it.
Sorry, sir. When you say 2 or 3, there are, I understand, 5 airports that can be called functional international airports. Maybe that's different from being viable.
They are not viable. Only 2 airports are viable in this country, and that's Lagos and Abuja. Lagos and Abuja, Lagos handles about 7 million passengers. Abuja about 4 million passengers annually. Out of 15 million, the remaining one are shared among the remaining 20 airports. So they are not viable. So as we are going to concession this airport, what we are saying is this. Pick the so-called international airport, maybe about 3 or 4 of them. Pick them, but you concession them alongside with 3 or 4 unviable ones. So that you don't leave them for us to continue spending public money on them. You pick Lagos Lagos must take, whoever takes Lagos must take 3 or 4 unviable ones, not any of the inter. So hand over all these airports, including Port Harcourt. Port Harcourt is number 3 in terms of viability in this country. No matter the level where it is number 3 in terms of viability. Let them concession it along with what they want to do now.
Okay.
I do not want a situation where we are going to continue spending public money where private money can be spent and they will make profit out of it.
Sorry, sir. When you say 2 or 3, there are, I understand, 5 airports that can be called functional international airports. Maybe that's different from being viable.
They are not viable. Only 2 airports are viable in this country, and that's Lagos and Abuja. Lagos and Abuja, Lagos handles about 7 million passengers. Abuja about 4 million passengers annually. Out of 15 million, the remaining one are shared among the remaining 20 airports. So they are not viable. So as we are going to concession this airport, what we are saying is this. Pick the so-called international airport, maybe about 3 or 4 of them. Pick them, but you concession them alongside with 3 or 4 unviable ones. So that you don't leave them for us to continue spending public money on them. You pick Lagos. Lagos must take, whoever takes Lagos must take 3 or 4 unviable ones, not any of the international airport. You take them along. You pick Abuja, you do the same thing. You pick Port Harcourt, you do the same thing. You pick Kano, you do the same thing. Okay. That is the only way we can go. Okay,
let me get Chris' perspective on that particular point, because the Vice President did say 2. Lagos and Abuja, and the questions have come, as Group Captain has indicated. Wait a minute, why just those 2? No doubt, part of the answer is that because they are viable. But are you happy with the notion that just 2 of them will be concessioned? And a Group Captain's formula, say, look, it's like vendors of yore back in the day. You can't take this favorite paper of yours without taking this one as well.
Thank you. It's one of the arguments the unions, 5 unions are making, that you don't just concession the viable airports, that others will die. There's quite some sense in twinning the airports or taking a group of airports, but I don't think that we should take more than 2 airports along with any of the major airports. Like Lagos, take other 2 airports along with Lagos. Abuja, take other 2 airports along with Abuja. Enugu, take other 2 airports along with Enugu. Kano, take other 2 airports along. By the time you finish, the concessioning package we are doing would have taken about 12 airports for us out there. So, and it's quite some good sense for those who are coming in. I think if you look at Tunisia did something, this thing, the new airport, the airports they were building, they concessioned. It's Finda, the brand new airport now, excellent enough. When they were concessioning it, they gave those who handle concession another airport, Monastir. So it was twinned.
What does
Tunisia.
concessioning mean, Chris? What exactly does it mean?
Concessioning.
Does it mean the entire airport, including the aeronautical part, the safety, the security part, the shopping mall part, everything?
Let me tell you, I differ a little bit slightly with a Group Captain, okay, in terms of aeronautical and non-aeronautical side, the side of the airport. Safety and security is always in the domain, not of the concessionaire. ABSEC is there. Aviation security, trained, is the interest of our country. Okay, but...
The aviation side, Uncle? The aviation side, Uncle.
What do you mean, aviation side?
Well...
Aeronautic...
I'm sorry, I meant the aeronautic. I'm sorry about that. Yes, I meant the aeronautical side.
The terminals, the runways, all of them should come into play. We should not have the silly thing we had in Abuja that we had to close a runway and whatever. If you have a concessionaire reasonably running an airline, he is interested in the runway that is going to be used, because that's where the aircraft land. You see, it depends on how you pattern the concessioning. What will you do with FAN? For me, I think FAN should just be restructured into a holding company, to oversee government's interest in the concessioned airports. The development plan of each airport should be different from the others. You know, at this point in time, the terminal you're giving to us, today, Lagos is only maybe 7 million. We are giving you this concession for 25 years. In the next 10 years, this airport must be handling up to 15 million. In the next distance, there are milestones in the distance, and it's agreed what the role of fund, which is government, will be in development of the runways and whatever. There must be a synergy between the government and the concessionaire. The concessionaire may say, look, we want to take along the airports and whatever. They can say that. They will say, we don't want to take that. You take that, government, but this is what we require. So there'll be an agreement on how it will go.
I wonder how this is going to work, because it's clearly a highly specialized sector.
Yes.
Apart from the aircraft and the pilots and all the crew, then you air traffic controllers. Those are indispensable, right? Is that also to be concessioned out?
Those are not part of the concession.
Those are not part of the concession. Because when people hear about concessioning, and so this whole airport, Lagos, for example, or Abuja, as the case may be, does it mean that everything, after all, we hear that in the US, for example, even prisons are totally concessioned out. Yes. Government doesn't have anything to do. So I was looking at, could that model be adopted, Group Captain?
No.
Chris doesn't agree with me that certain items should go with the concession. I don't agree. I told you we have about 22 airports in this country, or about 20, owned by the federal government. About 12 of them are joint users. And what do I mean by joint users? Used by the military, including the 5 international airports, or even 6 international airports. Okay. They are joint users.
Okay.
You understand? And what I mean by joint users, the aeronautical facilities are joint users by both the civil and the military. So those ones, and that's why I say government has not really come out.
Does the civil side benefit from
the military side?
Military being?
The military side benefits from it.
Oh, it's the military that benefits from the civil?
Absolutely. And when you are talking of what we call the air power, these are part of the assets of government for air power. So when we are going to do this concession, that's why I'm asking, what are we really concessioning? So government must put it down. And that is why I will not agree that for now, let us do exactly what we did at MM2. Let's start. Let it be the first step. You do that for maybe about 10 years, 15 years, then you can now start going forward. Concession that one out, but don't touch the aeronautical side.
Okay, the aeronautical side is that...
The aeronautical side includes the runway, the taxiway, the fire service,
where should that
emergency service.
Where should that be?
It should just remain with it should remain with the other agency. If FAN is not going to handle that one, hand it over to NAMA.
I was watching a documentary, just on I think one of the airports coming up in Dubai or Qatar, something like that, and I was seeing the intense detail, the intense amount of detail, every last screw on every bulb on the runway and that kind of a thing, and how openings were delayed. So I just got the impression that when this kind of a job or project is handled at its apex, it can be a minutely scientific affair. You say this part, that whole part of it, since we're going to want to be as good as anyone in the world, should remain in our hands.
You know, Yori, one of my major problems with some of the things we are doing now is that in 2006, I was a member of a committee. We discovered that we were short of about 300 controllers.
Air traffic controllers?
Air traffic controllers. Shortage of 300. Between 2006 and now, quite a lot of them will have even retired. And I'm not sure that we have been able to train 100 controllers now. In between this period, we went to go and take over state airports. These are part of the problem where some of these airports are not certified. That's on the NAMA side, on the airspace management side. They will now come to the airport management side. The aviation security staff were short of about 1,000 plus. Even as at last year, about 1,400 short. And we are doing all this thing. And that's why I keep asking, I'm not saying don't concession, but concession the non-aeronautical side.
Okay, okay. Well, you've
concession the non-aeronautical side.
Chris says he doesn't agree totally, but it's good to have both sides of it.
Yeah, because that is why, like I said, we have not been able to certify any of the airport, and that is why you find ICAO coming finding gaps, FAA coming finding gaps.
Yes.
And if you give all these things to a private individual, they are going to start from the beginning. Where are they going to get 1,000 people we have not trained? You will now start looking for where to train.
Okay, Chris, you.
Okay, let me follow this. Suppose if, as of now, the government is fully handling this, and we still are in short of the number of staff we require, what therefore is the guarantee that if government continues to handle it, that we will still not fall short? You see, this is why I say there's going to be a lot of synergy. If a concessionaire is coming, he will tell you what he requires. To do. It is specified what the government has to do, what the concessionaire has to do. In the agreement, the concessionaire will tell you his terms. He requires this number of staff. If you are handling it, then you have to train and give it to him as part of the agreement. Okay, so
you're saying that it's possible for these aspects to be cut and dried as part of the whole exercise?
It's part of the exercise, but I don't believe that a concessionaire should take over security. Aviation security should still remain in the hands of the government, whether it's under a remodeled fund or whatever, restructured fund, and the air traffic control should still remain business of government. It's not to be concession, but where is the wrong way.
Is that from a point of view of national pride?
Yes, no, it's not a matter. No, it's not a question of national pride. It's a national interest. It's a security interest. It has nothing to do with pride. Okay, it's our security interest. Whoever is coming as a concessionaire, I don't know whatever we get into. He said whatever at any point in time. If we don't guard our own airports, our own, there's no way we can. So that is why. So, but you know aviation security, air traffic control must remain in the hands of government. Okay. Yes. Fire service, I don't know, it could be anywhere because of the degree of efficiency required. It could still, with government, it could still be the concessionaire. But the fact of the matter is, at every point in time, government responsibility should be clear. It happens in India. India know what the responsibility of government is and what the responsibility of the person coming for concession is. So there's no disagreement about that.
Okay, Group Captain, if in this conversation, both of you gentlemen have said that this government is on the right path, according to you, in this decision to concession those two airports. And what you've explained here, add this and add that. Now, the other part I wanted to get your perspective on is, both of you also seem to nod your heads vigorously when the Vice President said that this is going to be done with transparency. Chris added absolute transparency. Now, what does that entail? Because that's what gives most Nigerians a cause for concern. You want to concession things out, people think of, you want to take our Commonwealth and hand it to a handful of people again. So what would absolute transparency entail in this exercise?
First of all, you know, you asked that you really want to know the meaning of concession. Concession is just handing over the management. It's not privatization. Government is not selling the airport. It's not privatization, it's just concessioning the management and maintenance. That is
for a given period of time.
For a given period of time, absolutely. That is what government is doing. So the transparency, like we are saying, is that don't do it the way you have done the previous ones. You understand? I remember again, I refer to 2006, when the terminal they are building now, which they have not completed, was supposed to have been given out. And somebody called Lufthansa. And Lufthansa said, come, advertise it. If you advertise it, everybody will participate, then we'll participate.
Something of an open tender kind of
absolutely. Idea. And why we are not doing that is my major problem with some of the things. Even that is what they talk about, what happened at MM2. MM2, everybody keeps saying that it was done under the ground. I said, okay, if it was done under the ground, we have learned a lesson from there. Let us do it on the table. And I want to believe the Vice President that is going to be transparent this time around.
So the idea, well, Chris, is it that no under table, underhand or under the table kind of deals, so that only the best shall indeed, at the end of the day, be selected for the job, right? Is that the whole simplistic idea?
Part of it, but it's much more than that. But first and foremost, let me say, Group Captain is talking about management concession. That's not only, you have build, operate, and transfer, which is BOT, which is MM2. You have build, develop, and transfer. We have no airports today that can just be handed over on management concession. All our airports are not configured for safety, for security. Everything about them is...
All of them, you say?
All of them from A to Z. That's why we will always, ICAO or FAA must find a gap in that, and then it's under the federal government is under this thing. There's an extent to which NCAA can regulate fan. It will not. It cannot. There are two children of the same snake. Okay? they cannot regulate fan. Even if he does it, even when Demure was there were things Demure insisted should be done. Before Demure could say, Jack, fan will go to minister, bring an approval and say, gentlemen, there's no reason to continue. The minister has approved. This is the kind of thing. So, you see, but once the airports go to the hands of a concessionaire, NCAA will come heavily on its regulatory thing. Nobody will disturb it. So there are so many things we have to restructure in this concession. So there are various forms of concessioning. Yeah. It's for us at every point in time to determine what type of concession we have. But in terms of transparency, like we have said, minister, bring an approval and say, gentlemen, there's no reason to continue. The minister has approved. This is the kind of thing. So, you see, but once the airports go to the hands of a concessionaire, NCAA will come heavily on its regulatory thing. Nobody will disturb it. So there are so many things we have to restructure in this concession. So there are various forms of concessioning. Yeah. It's for us at every point in time to determine what type of concession we have. But in terms of transparency, like we have said, like he was saying, MMA has taught us a lot. Unfortunately, I feel sad about it because it's a great investment. It was a great mind shift. But today, we are in a quagmire with it. That's why everything has to be put on top of the table. That's why I say the vice president should take command along with the Minister of Aviation in setting up the team that will midwife this concession. It just doesn't have to be left for anybody. It has to be a crack team. And so when that happens, you advertise. If you don't advertise, there's no way you can have competitive bidding. If you open professional magazines, aviation professional magazines, you will see every country that is doing, every airport handling concession. I can here tell you who handled Tunisia, the Esfinda and Monastir. I can tell you who handled Polkovo, for which I can tell the one that is the longest concession in 72 years. I can tell you that. I can tell you those who are handling Bangalore. I can tell you because it's in all the open. It's open, transparent, and you know how much is being given. You know the terms. How many years? MM2, we don't know. Some of they say Obasanjo approved 12 years. Fanika they extended it to 35 years. FAN says it's unacceptable. Court says it's acceptable. Some other ministers say you can now operate. You can operate regional
muddy
without
waters.
Complete muddy waters. Okay. So that's what we should have, absolute transparency.
Okay, listening to the unions, I have heard there are many aspects to the unions in this also. There are no doubt many aspects to it from their perspective. In fact, from all our perspectives, but. One of the things they say is that it's not as if we don't have the right people to do work on a international best practices level, but incessant interference from government, whether it is under the guise of federal character, under the guise of patronage, under the guise of it is now our turn to eat, they keep on putting people in there, and they don't have any choices as to accepting what from their point of view is a round peg in a square hole. Now, will the arrangement being proposed now that people think that, well, the PMB administration, having decided to do this, is going to do it well, would it remove that problem? Group Captain?
Well, you know, when Chris was talking that if you hand over this thing to a private somebody, that NCA will be able to regulate. NCA will regulate if there's a part of aeronautical services that they are controlling. But we know from experience that there will be interference. As there are interference with the private operators who are supposed to be regulated by the same NCAA, there will be a kind of interference. For as long as the NCAA is being managed the way it is being managed today, there will be interference.
Even with this different administration.
For as long as you put aeronautical services in their hand, there will be interference. And that's why I said, for now, don't add any aeronautical services into the concession you are going to do. Don't add it to it at all.
Okay.
Hand over the car park, hand over the terminal building.
Okay.
Let us see how much they can make. Even if they are going to build from the scratch, build Porako from the scratch, the way they are built MM2. Let them do it.
Okay.
You understand?
So we sort of get a sample.
Get a sample.
Of what can be done.
Absolutely.
And then know if, just like, as it were, dip your toes in the water.
Absolutely.
Before actually.
You start that one first.
Okay.
But don't give them any aeronautical services for now.
Okay. I wonder how you see it at home. We'd like to have your perspective as well. We're going to break now. When we're back, we'll take your calls as well. Stay with us, please. Welcome back. And so the approval has been given by the Federal Executive Council to concession 2 airports, and my experts in the House, Mr. Chris Aligbe and Group Captain retired John Ojikutu, have given us their perspectives. No doubt you also, have your impressions as to what is going on. I was hoping and I was thinking that there might be no government hand in this whole matter again, but you're saying, well, maybe it doesn't go like that. Totally unrelated, but when I found out that in the U.S., entire prison systems have been handed over to the private sector, it just stood as a sort of example for me. But wait a minute, if you want to go as far as that, apparently there's the expertise out there for such to be done. But it's, as I said, not related example at all, but just showing the extent that can be gone to. Chris, do you also agree that government still has a part in, well, it wouldn't be interfering, but having a say? It's not all to the concessionaire in how this whole train proceeds.
You see, government should have a say, but the kind of say government should have is through its agencies, appropriate agencies. Government should have NAMA should have a say in what's happening, this thing about the air traffic control, management of the FAN, like I said, for me, I think FAN...
Because these are national organs.
I think FAN should be restructured into a holding company, holding as it were, to oversee development, the terms of the agreement. These are the terms of agreement. FAN should be able to make sure that oversight, that the concessionaire is not just left alone, is following the terms of agreement, developing the airports the way it should be developed. That's why I say it's not just, our airports are not in a situation that it will be a management concession. It must be a situation that we develop, operate, or develop and manage for a certain period in time, and after that, if they have to renew, they renew, they hand over. But by the time they finish, the airport will have been developed to the point there, its capacity, original capacity, will have moved from X million to XYZ.
And the whole idea is that whatever the terms of the concession are, we'll come to know, whether 20 years, 25 years, 40 years, we'll get it back. And by that time, we will have the wherewithal to be able to continue to run it ourselves, if indeed we so wish. Mr. Hassan in Lekki, thank you for holding on. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Yori.
Thank you for calling in, sir.
Good morning to 2 panelists.
Thank you.
There's something wrong in concessioning, privatization, BOT, whatsoever name, you name it. As far as I'm concerned, they are the same. Because you are transferring power from the ownership, government ownership, to private individuals. That's number one. Number two, the second panel is there, Mr. Captain Ojikutu. When the Vice President say they are going to carry out the concessioning with full transparency, and he now added his own addendum by saying absolute.
Well, that was Mr. Aligbe, actually. It was Mr. Aligbe who said absolute. I hope absolute. It wasn't Group Captain.
Absolute transparency.
Yes, it was Mr. Aligbe.
No problem about that. You see, the issue about Nigeria is this. I'm seeing the concessioning from two angles. From the inability of the ministries and parastatals to perform wonderfully. There is this I don't care attitude of which is associated with our civil servants and public servants in Nigeria, in which if care is not taken, time will come when another government will come and outsource the entire civil and public service in Nigeria. That's it. Because all this concessioning is as a result of failure of the civil service and public servants. No two ways about it.
Okay. So you therefore, Mr. Hassan, you therefore are in support because of the reasons you have said.
Mr. Yori,
you don't have all the time you need.
You always appear to be a coach. The issue is this.
15 more seconds. 15 more seconds.
Don't mahala about that. You see, what I'm saying here is this. The concessioning should be transparent and congenial with our leadership. It should be transparent to the wishes of Nigeria, not people inflicting more injuries on us. The same thing people are trying to do, the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. We did not vote for APC or join APC for us to wreak havoc on Nigerians. The same way, they should not wreak havoc on the commuters that uses our international airport.
All right, then. Thank you very much for calling in, Mr. Al-Hassan. Again, you know, leaning towards the apprehension that Nigerians, because of our experiences at the hands of our leaders and authorities in the past, there's a certain apprehension in the air. He's emphasizing that whole transparency thing. And I hope all of this is to the benefit of the whole system and commuters at the end of the day. Well, it's understandable. I think Chris spoke last. Group captain?
Well, like Chris started, I think it is to the advantage of everybody.
Should be.
Yeah, it is to the advantage of everybody if it is transparent and they go along what I just told you.
Yeah.
Don't concession those two airports alone.
Okay.
Don't concession those two airports alone. Concession only the non-aeronautical. Then there will be no problem. Just go about the way you did it in Babalaki.
Okay.
There will be no problem. But mind you, the examples I will give, if we need to go further, you can concession the aerodrome control services with the airport, the way they do it in Britain. You can
what is aerodrome for the ordinary viewer?
Absolutely. Now, in the air traffic service, there is the aerodrome control. You control only the traffic that are landing, that are taking off on the runway. Then there is the service for that. You can take it along. You can take that one only along with the airport listing. But there are other air traffic services you cannot take over. Okay. You understand? You can take that one along.
Okay.
Because
I think your perspective is clear on this, Captain. You've been very, very clear on this. Femi in Surulere, good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning, Uncle Yori.
Thank you for calling in.
Hello?
Thank you for calling in. Please go ahead.
Okay, then. What I'm saying is this, that I don't understand this concession in the sense that I look at it like just maybe you call a developer to develop a plot for you and give it to him to run. And most of the time, when you get to this level, you find out that the developer is always looking for profit. He may not even develop the house to the standard which you want. That's the way I look at it. Most of these airports, they need serious upgrading. Is the person they concession it to is going to do this upgrading or just going to maintain the system around that place?
But Femi, whereas I understand, Femi, I beg your pardon, Femi, I understand the example you have given. You can't hear me, Femi.
This government will come, will say he has done this, then the next government will say no. We have found the same thing in the refinery. The refinery, this thing.
Okay, Femi.
So,
Femi, can you hear me?
My concern, your experts there, I want them to give us a clear view. Or are they going to upgrade this? Because most of them need upgrading.
Okay, Femi, thank you very much for calling. Really appreciate your call, Femi. When you were speaking, I guess somehow you couldn't hear me anymore. I didn't know, how appropriate the comparison you gave was. Developers and they doing the kind of job that they do. You probably don't need me to tell you that this is a highly technical business, and this particular operation, this whole project, it's highly technical. It's international best practices. Everybody shall be putting eye. It's not exactly like this whole developer thing. But I wanted to bring that to your attention and say, look, I understand that to simplify it is why you put it like that. But I guess even I can say that it can't be anything like a
upgrading. Is the person the concession is going to do this upgrading or just going to maintain the thing around that place?
But Femi, whereas I understand, Femi, I beg your pardon, Femi, I understand the example you have given. You can't hear me, Femi.
This government will come, we say he has done this, then the next government will say no. We have found the same thing in the refinery. The refinery, this thing.
Okay, Femi.
So,
Femi, can you hear me?
My concern, your experts there, I want them to give us a clear view. Or are they going to upgrade this? Because most of them need upgrading.
Okay, Femi, thank you very much for calling. Really appreciate your call, Femi. When you were speaking, I guess somehow you couldn't hear me anymore. I didn't know, how appropriate the comparison you gave was. Developers and they doing the kind of job that they do. You probably don't need me to tell you that this is a highly technical business, and this particular operation, this whole project, it's highly technical. It's international best practices. Everybody shall be putting eye. It's not exactly like this whole developer thing. But I wanted to bring that to your attention and say, look, I understand that to simplify it is why you put it like that, but I guess even I can say that it can't be anything like a developer coming along and fixing stuff.
I think a little bit of it could be because, when we're talking about concessioning, there are various forms. There's MC, management concession, which he was talking about. And I said to him, we don't have an airport that any person can be called today
which is
to
the point
manage.
Femi was making.
Which is, yes. So what I say is that you have DOT, develop, operate, and transfer.
Surely we're going to be shining our eyes.
Yeah.
We have suffered too much.
That's why fans should be there to oversight, to ensure that the agreement, the concession agreement, is adhered to. So it's no question of...
So Femi has a point, as a matter of fact.
No, see,
Femi has a point that it could be such a shoddy kind of affair if care is not taken.
Yeah, he has a point. He has a point. And when fan is taking, say, this is your role, then the government has somebody, Nigerians have somebody to hold responsible if anything is going wrong. So a concessionaire for our airports, both our airports, all the airports, they are not greenfield airports. They are in existence, is unlike Babalaki. Babalaki was greenfield because the airport there was burned down. So you had BOT, build, operate and transfer. But all our airports today will be develop, operate and transfer. So it's going to be a DOT. It's going to be a DOT, but there must be a supervisor.
I think I heard the group captain speaking earlier on TV this morning, not on this program, earlier on this station this morning, and he was making the example of Gatwick being, a Nigerian.
A Nigerian, yes.
It's actually a Nigerian who owns Gatwick.
Yes.
Well, calling in from Bidda in Niger State, Joshua. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for calling in.
Yore.
Good morning, sir.
And good morning to the guests in the house.
Good morning.
It is my prayer that the concession of our airport will not end like the privatization of NEPA and other privatization that have taken place in this nation. Please, Uncle Yori, can you help me to ask the government, when are they going to pay the already sacked or the pensioners that have lost their job in the Nigerian Airways?
Oh, but Mr. Ligwe, he started off from there, saying that he does his heart to this administration for that particular question you've asked.
Yes.
The decision has been made to do the needful.
Because I know they are watching. Hope you are getting it, sir. Because, any concession or privatization, the people that suffer the brunt most is the workers.
Okay.
So what are they going to do with respect to some of these workers that will be affected in the concession. Because whenever you hand over any project to the private sector, you know they are after their profit. I get it, and at the end of the day, the workers will suffer the brunt.
Okay.
Thank you and God bless.
Thank you very much for calling in.
Thank you very much. It's an area of interest to me.
Yes.
I haven't been in Nigeria, but I think, like I said, government has taken a firm decision to pay Nigeria Airways workers what is their due. Yes, you will be eventually 15 years. Totally, they've paid, late year ago, paid 5 years. This government is planning to pay some 10 years, even though the standard is 25 years, what they paid Nigeria Airways workers in the West Coast, in other countries. But here they are doing it as of today. The staff are even meeting, thinking about modalities of payment. So I think I commend the government for doing it. All that is waiting is for them to get to the last one. Let them pay.
Let
no
them
question.
pay.
Every day we hear that they are going to pay that. So having said that, the union, fine union, they are right. Government owes them one obligation, that their entitlements or their benefits will be paid. It has to be part of the concession agreement before the concession takes off. That had to be calculated and put aside so that everybody, all of them may not lose their job, but under the present situation, they will be disengaged as government, as public servants. But then whoever comes can employ them newly, but all their entitlements must be paid. That's what the government owes them. The government or the concessionaire doesn't owe them a job. Government owes the younger people coming much more obligation in terms of job provision than for some of us, those who have worked 25 years, 30 years, paid them their benefits. Don't let them die the way many Nigeria Airways staff died before now. So I agree with him, they must pay. But there's a difference between privatization and concessioning. Concessioning is for a time, for a period in time, and the property still belongs to the government. Privatization
and the people of Nigeria.
Yeah, and people of Nigeria.
So this whole matter about selling off our commonwealth doesn't really
privatization is a different thing. It's a total sell-off. So we must make a difference between the two.
Ati in Cross River, good morning.
Hello?
Good morning, Ati.
Yes, good morning, sir. Good morning, sir.
Please go ahead now. Thank you for calling.
My question is, first, number one question. Each time concessioning is done, okay, I can hear you. Each time concessioning is done in Nigeria, the staff is always at the receiving end. What happens to them in the service as they are working? What about their entitlement? Staff will definitely be affected. Secondly,
well, thank you very much, Ati. I believe for some reason you didn't hear it. That particular point you made has been addressed severally at the top of the program, and even the immediate question before yours, Mr. Aligbe was also able to throw some light on there. In summary, he had said that finally this administration has taken the baton from the previous, I think it was the Yar'Adua administration that you mentioned that had paid 5 years, and that this administration has undertaken to take 10 more years. But the point being that the needful will be done. Thank you very much for calling in, Ati. Yeah, rightly so, because people, it's when the concessionaires come along, they probably don't want to be hampered by anything at all, and they mustn't be given any excuse. They must be allowed to provide any excuse as to why things didn't go the way they were supposed to go. And this, usually, there will be human casualties. But government has undertaken, well, no, they haven't in this case, but in the past, Chris has just, given kudos to this administration for picking up some of the liabilities of previous administrations before it came into power. It's an important point that people are making, but I'm also grateful for the explanation that Chris just gave that, look, concessioning is not the same as privatization. In this case, it still belongs to us. They will operate it for as long, and Chris also, described a number of varieties of it. Ultimately, it comes back to us. But at that time, in the future, distant future, I imagine, it's going to be a much more wholesome kind of an operation. that we can then continue and take to greater heights. Is that the general idea?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
That's the general idea.
That's the
but
general
that's why I'm
idea.
saying that we cannot take everything whole hog. Even the union that are getting worried, I don't foresee, if they go along the way I'm saying now, I don't foresee most of them. I don't foresee 60–70% of them losing their job.
Okay.
And that's why I said,
Because they
don't
still
tamper with the aeronautical now.
Okay, you can't emphasize this point
Yeah,
more.
don't
Group
tamper
captain.
with the aeronautical
And- yes,
now.
and
Because
yes.
that is where the manpower is.
Yeah, okay.
For government. Don't tamper with it now.
Ayo is in Cotonou and wants to join this conversation. I think I can squeeze you in. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Yori.
Please go ahead, sir.
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
I've been enjoying your program here, but a little I wanted to contribute into the issue. When they are talking about privatization in Nigeria, what is government doing about the workers? There is a caller calling from, I don't know where it's calling from, about the ATM. Have they paid all the staff up to the full? To right now we are talking. Nothing is being done. Even if they privatize or they try to do any restructuring on the airport, I bet if
this is
government
concessioning.
not going to settle the staff.
This is concessioning, not privatization.
We should not be. We should not be. We shouldn't be deceiving ourselves. Let government go ahead.
Well, thank you very much for calling in. Interestingly, Chris had actually explained that this is concessioning. It's not the same as privatization, and the group captain also added, it's not the same. It still belongs to us. It still belongs to the government and therefore the people of Nigeria, and will be returned to us. It's different entirely from privatization. And also, for some reason, I don't know why you didn't hear it, that point that you also raised about people being important, that also no doubt will be factored into the mix. Unfortunately, gentlemen, we have experts. You don't want them to go because there are 1,001 things the rest of us need to know, but we're going to have to be satisfied for now. And this is going to be a continuing conversation. But I want to thank you both gentlemen for coming on. Group Captain John Ojukutu and well, not Group Captain, Mr. Chris Aligwe. Thank you very much for coming on. Aviation expert and chief executive, chief consultant and CEO of Belly Jane Consult. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming on.
Thank you, Yori.
Okay.
Thanks, sir.
Indeed. So that's our program. Please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition at 10:30 in the morning. I'm Yori Folari. I'll be back tomorrow. Bye-bye for now.